friends, I'm Sarah. Welcome back to my channel, Sunset Bow Tarot. So today I wanted to film a response to a tag that was started by Patsy from Two Paths Tarot, and that tag is for love of cards. So it's basically just a list of questions about cards, about tarot and about decks you like and about all of the different ways that you relate to cards in your practice. So I thought that sounded like a lot of fun. I've seen a lot of really great responses to this one, so here are mine. So the first question is, what was your first deck? And for me, I've actually done a video talking about this because for a really long time I thought my first decks were something that were not actually my first decks. So my actual first deck that I ever bought is Legend the Arthurian Tarot by Anna Marie Ferguson. And this is a really cool deck. I've actually recently rebought it once I realized that I had had this at one point and had completely forgotten that I had ever owned it. I did go ahead and trim it, and you can see that I've written the names of the figures from Arthurian Legend at the bottom there. So it doesn't look the best right now, but trimming the borders off, they're huge, and it really made the artwork pop a lot more. But so this was my actual first deck, and apparently I couldn't really read with it, and it doesn't really surprise me because, you know, when you're learning tarot, sometimes a deck that's very heavily themed isn't the best way to really get started. So it is a really cool deck. Sorry, these are the backings. It's a cool deck, and now that I have it again, it makes a lot more sense to me now. And the book I find that goes with this deck is really, really good. So I've enjoyed it a lot since I repurchased it, but as a first deck, not a good choice. So the deck that was my actual first deck in terms of the deck that I really learned to read tarot on, that was my first deck that I really used as a tarot deck, was the Robin Wood Tarot. And it's funny, I don't actually use this deck at all, basically, anymore. It's just not a deck that I remain drawn to. I still think it's beautiful, but it's not a style of artwork that really resonates with me that much. But that said, this was a fantastic deck to learn on. It helped me really, really, truly, strongly understand the meanings of the cards. I did a lot of readings for myself with this deck. I did a lot of readings for other people with this deck. And this is really the deck that made me understand tarot. So I still keep my old copy of it. It's precious to me. I would never let go of it, but it's not a deck that I really read with anymore, but it was a great first deck for learning, and it really taught me a lot, and I had a really great relationship with it for a long time. For some reason, it just spoke to me really clearly. So anyway, so that's the Robin Wood Tarot. Oops, sorry. These are the backs. I always forget to show the backs. The next question is, who is your favorite deck creator? And that's an easy one for me. My favorite deck creator is Kat Black. She is the creator of the Touchstone Tarot, which we'll see again later in the video when I talk about my favorite deck of all time. She also created the Golden Tarot, which I also really love. This was actually the first deck of hers that I bought, and I got this deck at a time when I had been away from tarot for a while, and I was coming out of kind of a rough time in my life where I hadn't been using tarot, and so so I do really love this one as well. I have a strong sort of draw to it, and a really strong, you know, feeling of love for it as a result of it sort of being the deck that kind of brought me back into tarot in a lot of ways. But the Touchstone is my all-time ride or die soul deck. Love this one so much. If you've watched my channel at all, you already know this, but I love this one with all my heart. So question number 3 is, what is your favorite divination system? And for me, that's an easy one. It's tarot. I consider myself primarily a tarot reader. I do have some oracle decks. I'm interested in learning Lenormand, and I do have a couple of Lenormand decks and a book that I've been sort of looking through. I don't know, I don't have quite as much of a strong pull to it as I do to tarot, but I do find it interesting, so I'm gonna see how that goes, but I don't see myself really becoming a big Lenormand reader. I do have a stronger interest in runes, so that is something that I can see myself kind of dabbling in the future. I do have an interest in that, but fundamentally I consider myself a tarot reader first and foremost. I love tarot. I love the system of it. I feel like it has so much flexibility and so much meaning, and it really speaks to me in a really special way. So I will always see tarot as my top divination system. the next question is, what's your favorite system within tarot? And for me, that's the Rider-Waite-Smith. Mostly just because at this stage in the game, it's the system I'm most familiar with. It's the system I learned with, and the one that I understand the best, undoubtedly. I'm learning to read pip decks. I don't consider myself to be fully comfortable with reading pip decks yet. It's not even so much that I don't know the meanings, because I know the meanings. It's getting to that point of just comfort where you're not only knowing the meanings, but you're speaking to them in a fluent way. You're able to sort of see the outlines of a story and what you're reading, and you know, it's really that sort of level of fluency with pip decks that I feel is still lacking. So you know, when I read for other people, I generally will read with the Rider-Waite-Smith style deck, but I'm trying to develop more of that level of fluency with Marseille style decks or pip decks. The Thoth system just has never really appealed to me. Like, I don't have anything specifically against the system. I really don't like the Thoth deck for some reason that I have never been able to fully explain. I've said before, like, I don't have any weird, like, anti-Crowley kinds of opinions. I don't, you know, have any objections specifically to the artwork, but there's something I just don't connect with in that deck where I just don't have a great response to it. So because I don't have a strong interest in the Thoth deck itself, I've never really had a strong interest in learning the system, so I don't know, maybe I will someday, but it's just not something that's high on my list of things to do. So the next question is the last deck you bought, and the last deck I bought on a complete whim, and I actually love it. And it is an Oracle deck, and I'm supposed to be on a moratorium from buying Oracle decks, but when I saw this one, I was sort of like, I feel like this is a deck I need to have, and that deck is the Literary Witches Oracle. So I'm a huge reader, and this deck, when I saw the different authors that they had featured in this deck, I was just sort of blown away, and by the associations they made between the keywords and the authors that they chose. I really loved it, and then I loved the fact that it sort of combined these different authors with like objects and sort of ingredients, you know, like spell ingredients kind of, you know, was the intention. And I just thought that it was such a cool concept for a deck. I love the artwork. I think it's actually a really nice deck. I'm shocked at how inexpensive this was, because it feels like a really high quality deck. The cards have a little bit of a linen finish to them, but it's really cool. The guidebook isn't wildly informative. There's maybe a couple sentences about each author and just a couple keywords about each of the sort of spell ingredients, but it's just a cool deck. I'm really happy I bought it. It's a lot of fun. I've been kind of pulling cards from it and just enjoying seeing what comes up. It's just one of those ones that I'm having fun with. So, and I think the artwork is just incredibly cool and really beautiful, and it just, here we have a nice nin for the subconscious. I mean, it's so great. There's a little bit of darkness, or a little bit of a skewed perspective too, in terms of the way that they've associated some of the keywords with some of the authors. Like, one example would be Shirley Jackson, one of my all-time absolute favorite authors, has the keyword family, which is amazing because she wrote a ton of stuff about family. Like, she wrote a lot of columns about her own children and, you know, her own family life, but then she also wrote, you know, just some really sort of twisted takes on family relationships in some of her books, like We Have Always Lived in the Castle, which is one of my favorite books of all time. It's just, I don't know, it's a really cool deck. I just think it's neat, so I'm excited about it. I really like it. So the next question is, what is your favorite deck right now? And for me, that's the Sasrai Beto, is the one that I've just been really having a strong relationship with, I feel, right now. I just really love this deck, and I told this story in another recent video that I did, but I actually bought this deck about a year ago and just decided, oh yeah, I don't feel a connection to this, I don't think it's for me, and I sold it. And then just, I don't know, a month and a half ago or something like that, I decided that I was feeling a pull towards it again, and so I bought it again, which I still feel just completely ridiculous about. And this time it's really speaking to me in a really special way, and I don't know what happened there, but I'm just loving it this time around. So That's a Sassurai Beto. It's just a cool deck, and I don't know, it really resonates this time, and I'm not sure why. Next question is, what's your favorite deck of all time? And the answer to this, completely obvious. If you've watched my channel even once, you probably already know that my favorite deck of all time is the Touchstone Tarot by Cat Black, and I love this deck. It's my all-time favorite. I love the artwork. I love the relationship that I have with the people in this deck. It just speaks to my soul, and I love it so much. I have multiple backup copies of this deck because I'm a crazy person, and it was out of print for a really long time, so I'm super happy that it's coming back into print, and I just honestly love this one with all my heart. So all-time fave. So that's the Touchstone. So the next question is, what deck would you love to own? And I have 3 straight up unicorns on my wish list, and those are the Tarot of Delphi, the Idiosyncra deck, and the Fantastic Menagerie. They're all out of print. They all go for ridiculous, enormous amounts of money when you see them for sale. I am worried that I will never own any of them. I've heard rumblings that the Tarot of Delphi may be reprinted and that the Fantastic Menagerie may be reprinted. From what I understand, the artist of the Idiosyncra deck has basically said that she doesn't like it anymore and she never wants to reprint it. That really bums me out because I'm always just like, take my money, you know. You know, if that one never gets reprinted, that's a real shame because I think it's wonderful. But the other 2, hopefully they'll come back into print. I would love it so much if they did. Next question is a deck you own but you struggle with. For me, there's no question that that's the Oracle of Mystical Moments. And I do struggle with this deck. I think it's lovely. I think that there is a lot you can get intuitively from the imagery. But again, I don't really feel fluent enough with it to be able to use it to read for other people. The reason I hang on to it is because I love the artwork so much. This artwork blows me away. I just think it's so gorgeous. The artist of this deck, her name is Katrin Weltstein, which I have no idea if I'm pronouncing correctly, but she is working on a tarot deck that I could not be more thrilled about, and I'm so looking forward to. Her Instagram, which I will probably link below if I remember, has images of her tarot deck in progress, and I've been following along with it, and I just love what she's been doing. So having a tarot deck in this style of artwork is so exciting to me. So again, I mean, I'm keeping the Oracle at this stage honestly for the artwork, but if I get a tarot deck by this artist, that will just be so wonderful. The last question is, if you could have a deck tailor-made for you, what would it be like? For me, if I could have a deck tailor-made for me, it would probably be a cat deck. Because again, this is something I've talked about before. I've tried so many cat decks in my life, and I still, to this day, have not found the cat deck that is the cat deck for me. I love cats. All I want in the world is a cat deck that feels like the perfect cat deck for me. In terms of the artwork I liked the best, the Considerate Cat had my favorite artwork, but the symbolism on the cards didn't really resonate with me. Conversely, the Tarot of the Pagan Cats, I really like the symbolism that they use, and I actually do have the mini version of that deck, but I'm not the hugest fan of the artwork style. So if there could be some way of combining those two things, where it had a similar artwork style to the Considerate Cat, but it had really good symbolism like the Tarot of the Pagan Cats, that would be wonderful. There is a deck coming out at some point by the creator of the Crow Tarot, MJ Cullinan, I think is her name, and that's going to be the Grimalkin Tarot. It's a cat deck that she's working on right now, so that is a deck that I'm very, very excited about, and I have backed on Indiegogo, but just the cat deck of cat decks, the one that really resonates with me is the one that I would have tailor-made for me if I could. Alternatively, if it turns out that the Grimalkin Tarot does end up being my cat deck, I would love to have a digital collage style deck like a Cat Black deck, but of impressionist artwork. I think that would be amazing. I think that there's a real dearth of decks out there that have, impressionist style artwork. I've seen the Impressionist Tarot, and I think it's really cool in a lot of ways, but I don't love some of the choices that were made as far as the images. So if I could have like Cat Black digitally collage an impressionist artwork deck for me, that would be really awesome as well. So those are my answers to the For Love of Cards tag. Again, this one was started by Patsy from Two Paths Tarot, and I'll link her original video down below. This one was a lot of fun. I've seen a lot of other really great responses to this one, so always fun to do a tag. I don't know, I think that they're really cool to you know, kind of see different people's takes on the same question, which is always really fun. So anyway, thanks again for watching. Have a great one. Bye-bye.